Hi, everybody. Today we've got a poll out of Iowa, and it shows Donald Trump with a massive lead. It's not at all expected to be a competitive state, but we're going to do a quick one on this Des Moines Register poll because we do have a stream planned for tonight's primaries. So stop by for that if you're interested. But every once in a while, we take a look at other states, even if they're not the major battlegrounds. Trump is already expected to win the state potentially by double digits, but the headline here is Trump maintains big lead over Biden and RFK Jr. despite felony conviction. So a couple of weeks after the conviction, we've got Trump at 50%. Biden at 32. As always, keep in mind there's a lot of time to go, things can change, and this is just one poll, but the sample size here was 632 likely voters. So an 18-point advantage for Trump is significant. I would not expect it to be that much in the end, but if this ends up being well over a 10-point advantage, that might reflect on other states and not bode well for Biden. Now, the polls sponsored by Des Moines Register in the past have been fairly accurate compared to the other polls, so that's why I think it's a little bit more worthwhile taking a look at. So Kennedy gets 9%, 2% go to Chase Oliver, 3 go for someone else, 1 would not vote, and 3 are not sure. Now, last time Trump got over 53, Biden got under 45. So I would expect both candidates to go up a little bit in the end, but it is going to be much tougher to imagine Biden getting close to his total back in 2020. And again, this is after the conviction. We've seen other states close to stagnant. Maybe Biden gains a little bit with independents, but this shows a giant gulf, maybe the biggest I've ever seen in this state. Now, the previous poll did show a big lead for Trump as well, 48 to 33. That I even thought was huge at the time, but this is even above that. There's a quote from a Republican voter here that says, "We need to take care of our own before we worry about everybody else." And Trump's conviction has only solidified his resolve in voting for him. He goes on to say his convictions on these charges are part of the reason my mind is made up. The more they try to get him out of the picture, the stronger they make him. I, for one, believe that the charges are bogus. Now, I think that's a common sentiment among Trump supporters, but once you go away from that to independents or obviously Democrats, it's going to drop off dramatically. The next charts indicate if there's soft support or if voters' minds are made up. With Biden, 81% of voters say their mind is made up, 19% say they could be persuaded. With Trump, the support is a little softer. Voters say 76% their mind is made up, 24% could be persuaded. Now, that actually makes sense to me given Biden's top line number is so low. I would not expect Trump to win the state by 18, and therefore some of that 24% might go into other candidates. Then we've got how hard the support is with third-party voters. With Kennedy supporters, a massive 82% say they could be persuaded. With Chase Oliver's supporters, 87% say that they could be persuaded, and 60% of those supporting someone else. Now, the caveat there with those subsets is the sample size is much smaller. So then we've got Biden's approval rating and a chart showing the history. Right now, his approval rating is at a measly 28%, and his disapproval is at 67%. The disapproval is slightly down, but similar to where it was in February. But you can see pretty much during his whole presidency in this state, he's been underwater except for the very beginning in March 21. Now, the state has become much more Republican, but this shows you the partisan divide with Biden's approval rating. 77% of Democrats approve, and 97% of Republicans disapprove. Independents are at 24, 69 disapprove. But it does say Biden performs his best with those 65 years or older. That's a 46 positive, 56 negative. In contrast, those younger than 35 are Biden's worst demographic. Just 15% approve, 76 disapprove. That is worse than the previous poll, and that's also worse than what I would even expect it to be. Then we get down into the issues, and Biden's best issue is going to be abortion, but he's still way underwater there. 32 approve, 52 disapprove. Here's a quote from a Biden voter that says, "I kind of picked my lesser of two evils in a sense." And let's look at the rest of the issues. On inflation, Biden is at 25 approve, 69 disapprove. Immigration, 24 approve, 68 disapprove. The war between Israel and Hamas, 23 approve, 64 disapprove. And again, there's abortion at 32 approve, 52 disapprove. Normally, abortion is Biden's best issue, and that's technically true even in this poll. But I'm not even exactly sure what the motivations are for all these voters disapproving with a majority support at 52. Down a little bit more, it says Trump maintains favorability numbers but struggles with independent women. Trump's favorables are at 51 positive, 47 negative. With independents, it's at 48 favorable, 50 unfavorable. And if you go down here, you can see the comparison between Biden and Trump's approvals. Biden's very unfavorable is at 50, Trump's is at 37, and the very favorable for Biden is at 10, while Trump's is at 28. So Trump is not necessarily all that popular, but compared to Biden, he actually does look kind of popular. However, with independents, 54% of men have a favorable view of Trump, 43 have an unfavorable view. But with women, it switches. 41% are favorable of Trump, 58 are unfavorable. So that's a pretty big gender divide. Then down here, we've got the breakdown with independents, Democrats, and Republicans for who they're going to support in the head-to-head matchup, and that does include third parties. Then they get down into the double haters. We've got 13% of likely voters say they have an unfavorable view of both both candidates. Now, of that 13%, they do tilt toward Biden 26 to 16. Another 26 go for Kennedy, 11 go for Chase Oliver, and 14 are going for somebody else. And finally, we've got Iowans believe the nation is headed in the wrong direction. And it's pretty overwhelming. The chart here shows it's at 77% on the wrong track. Only 17% say it's headed in the right direction. And that's close to the biggest gap it's ever been. But if you look at the chart history, going back to the days of Obama, all those years were still in the red, but they're narrower than what they are under Biden. Now, even under Trump, it was still in the red, but it was even narrower than what it was under Obama. In March of 2020, toward the beginning of COVID, that is actually the only time that the poll shows we were headed in the right direction. That was with a 46 to 44% result. So for whatever reason, things were looking better under Trump, and the sentiment under Biden is it's clearly worse than even under Obama. I would guess a lot of that is because of inflation. There's definitely more issues out there than that, but if that was under control, then it's difficult to guess how much this would narrow. Down below, you can read a little bit more about the poll, the pollster, and the methodology, and they even have some more demographic breakdown, etc. So this is what's going on in Iowa. Last time Trump won the state by more than 9 points. So it getting over 10 this time is not too much of a stretch. The polls in the aggregate did underestimate Trump here back in 2020 by about 8 points. That's pretty embarrassing. But this Des Moines Register poll, which used the polling firm Seltzer and Company, they were not too far off in 2020. They only underestimated Trump by a couple of points. So things could easily change month to month. I could easily see Biden improving a little bit given how far underwater he is. But to get back to the 2020 margin seems like a pretty uphill climb at this point. But it's not going to be too consequential given that the state is not really on the radar for anybody as being a battleground. But it's still good to glance at some of the comprehensive data from other states, especially if the pollster has a better reputation. So maybe this carries over in other states, maybe it doesn't at all, maybe it's a complete outlier or things change in a month. We'll find out, but that's a look at this poll for Iowa. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this poll or this pollster? Is it really going to be an 18-point win for Trump? Or do you think this is an outlier? Biden's going to turn it around and get it down easily under 10. Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.